Hey friends, welcome back to the UNCOMMODiFiED podcast. I'm Tim Windsor, and I'm going to host the second in a series of podcasts on that idea of unending that I introduced in my last podcast. It's the second of a 14-part series, actually, because I'm going to chunk this down into smaller bits because I want to speak to you about some qualities and some important things that I believe, if you think about them and apply them, are going to make you think about the impact you're going to have when you're not here, when you're gone, when you're dead, but also will make you have greater impact while you're alive. You'll get a double benefit from this conversation for sure. So what we're going to do is we're going to explore the first of 13 characteristics, 13 actions, the passions of those who are unending legacy leavers. The uncommodified, the unenders that I talked about in that introduction, the unenders who, even though they're gone now, they are still alive with me and many others. That's the power of this, because they were pushers. And this is the first quality I want to talk about. They were pushers. And if you and I can become one now on purpose and with purpose, provocative, purposeful pushers, provocative, purposeful pushers, we can and will become unending legacy leavers. This is what I believe. Uncommodified unenders in the lives of many people, lots of people that we encounter in this life. And as Dr. Charles Franklin said, no one gets out of this life alive. So leave a footprint of your choice. You are writing your epitaph. You are writing it right now. And that's what I want to talk about again. Unenders, legacy leavers are pushers. They're pushers. They're pushers of people, and they leave an imprint. They're pushers of limits and limitations and of barriers and boulders who inspire you and I to do the same. And they're pushers who push seeds into the soil of people's lives that they encounter so that they'll bear fruit in their lives and the lives of others, not only while they're here, but when they are gone, they're going to leave a mark and a legacy. Now, the dictionary defines push very simply as exerting force on something or someone, typically with one's hand, in order to move them. And when we do, we will leave a mark. We will leave a mark. We'll leave a palm print. We'll leave fingerprints that will outlast and outlive us and become part of our unending and make us unenders for some people. Pushing. Now, what do I mean by that? Pushing with a forceful gentleness. Just enough force to leave a permanent imprint of your unique fingerprints on the life of someone else. Someone else can be impacted by you positively. Some of these fingerprints that you're going to leave and that I'm going to leave, they're going to be good ones. And frankly, maybe some of them not so good, because it's a human experience. We're not perfect. But our fingerprints, we're going to leave a mark when we push people. Hopefully, we're pushing them for the right reasons. And that's what I want to talk about. That will be memorable. This will be memorable things that we do as we push people. As Eleanor Roosevelt said, understanding this dichotomy, she said this: some people are going to leave a mark on this world while others will leave a stain. So let's limit the stains we leave and endeavor to leave a positive mark. Now, where do stains come from? Stains come from, so we leave stains with our fingerprints when we try to manhandle or womanhandle someone else and manipulate them. But the beautiful marks come as a thrust of encouragement, a push of observed potential that comes when we push with positive intent and purpose, not pushing away, not pushing too far, but pushing someone forward and upward and into new opportunities and towards new options that will open a way for them into their future that they might be struggling to see, but that you and I and others around them can see with powerful clarity and certainty. They just need a little push. Pushers are fingerprinters, not finger pointers. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about fingerprinters, not finger pointers. They don't just thrust their finger in your face and wave and wag it at you in disgust to shame you. That's not what they do. As the actor Robert Pattinson said, our fingerprints don't fade from the lives we touch. And so we should be very careful. We should be very careful how we touch and how we push others. The fingerprints of pushers. I want you to think about this concept for a second. Think about this idea. Think about this. We all have them on our backs. We all have the fingerprints of pushers, our pushers on our backs, the palm prints and the fingerprints of those positive pushers. It's just at times hard for us to see them. It's sort of like, when you're in the shower and you're trying to wash your back, but you just can't get to that back spot right in the middle. You just can't wash it. And, you really need a mirror and you need a scrub brush. You need something so you can get that spot, or you need a friend to get it for you so that you don't miss it. That spot in the middle of your back that's hard to wash is also the spot in your middle of your back that carries the remnants of the palm prints and the fingerprints of your pushers, people who gently put their hands on your back and pushed you forward. Now, I want you to think about who are they for you? I can think of some people, and I'll talk about them in a few minutes, but who are your pushers? Who were people who pushed you forward, pushed you beyond, pushed you out so that you could become something bigger and better and stronger because of that? And again, if they're not here anymore, that's their legacy. That's their unending legacy in your life. Now, when I ask people, what others see sometimes, what do they see on my back, or and they can help me see it, then that's where I start to gain benefit from it. And sometimes I need other people to help me, or sometimes sort of like, it's like going into the fitting room, at Guess or Old Navy, and when you're in a fitting room and you got all those mirrors around you and you can see around you, you could, if you took your shirt off at that point, or you're changing shirts in the dressing room, you can see the middle of your back in those mirrors. Sometimes you need friends like that who can put up a mirror and help you understand and see those fingerprints on others and remind you of them so that they can become inspirational again. Now, of course, I got faded fingerprints on my back, and so do you. The faded ones are those of my papa and my mom and my dad, and a man named Paul Storms that I can think of, a friend of mine, Dave Caldwell, countless others that are gone now, but definitely not forgotten. They're all gone from this life, but yet the imprints of these pushers remain and remind and re-encourage me when I can see them. And on those days that I can't get to the fitting room at Guess or Old Navy to see it myself, I find a friend, a partner, a family member, a friend with benefits. But now be really clear. When I say friend with benefits, I'm not talking about the kind you might think of right now. I'm talking about a friend with the benefit of seeing you from the outside, the benefit of not living in your head where all that crazy stuff happens, the benefit of seeing the fingerprints on you of others that you can't always see, a friend that can't read your palm to tell you the future, but who can read your back and reread and retell you and retrace the marks of your pushers, who can see in you qualities of others. That's what we need as a reminder sometimes. Now, of course, we don't want to leave palm prints and on people's face if we slap them. We surely don't want to leave fingerprints on them if we strangle them. That's not what we're talking about. But we're talking about the marks of the faithful marks and the faith-filled marks of those who push you forward, who pushed me forward and upward and into those new opportunities and towards new options that opened a way into my future that I was struggling to see, but they could see it with powerful clarity and certainty. And again, certain people come to my mind when I think about that. Now, they also, not only did they push me forward in positive ways, listen, they were button pushers. The people that I think about, these legacy leavers, these unenders in my life who were powerfully influential but are no longer here, they were button pushers. They pushed my buttons, bad ones and good ones. And when I remember and I reflect on them, I realize that even when it felt like they were pushing my buttons for the wrong reasons, it was provocative and it was getting my attention. Now, these pushers are not just pushers of people who leave a mark. Okay, that's one part of being a pusher, for legacy, people who push you forward and upward and into your destiny. But they were also pushers of their own limits and limitations and of barriers and boulders in their lives. And when they became pushers of their limitations and those limits and their barriers and boulders, they became inspirational to me. And that inspiration has lasted beyond their natural life and still inspires me. I think of stories for instance, of my dad. And I have had a complicated relationship with my dad in some ways because he left when I was young. My parents were divorced, and I had an awkward relationship, I would say, with him over the years later on. But you know what? There's one inspiring story that I think of that's always inspired me, and it's how my dad had to leave school, high school, even though he was doing really well. He had to leave high school to take care of his mom because his dad left his family. And that story was inspirational to me in relationship to understanding what it means to dedicate yourself to the care of others. I think of my mom, and I think of her story, and I think of how she faced her own limitations and barriers and boulders in her life, and she overcame, and she was surviving even though she wasn't always thriving. But she had massive barriers and boulders and limitations in her life, emotionally and psychologically, and even though she never totally overcame them, I was inspired by watching her move through difficult times, and that caused me to understand certain things, and it's affected me even now in my life, even though she's gone and been gone since 2012. I think of my papa, my wise pipe-smoking papa, and the stories of his childhood, growing up in Germany as a young boy and then coming to Canada and emigrating over and starting with nothing and becoming a husband and a father to a single mother with 4 children at a time in society where that wasn't the cool thing to do. That wasn't the right thing to do. What an amazing man, and he was transformative to me, and I've shared about him before, like my own father. What a powerful example he's been to me. And again, I have his fingerprints. Yeah, maybe they got a little bit of tar and smoke on them from his pipe. I've got his fingerprints on my back, and I know it. And every once in a while, I do something, and it reminds me, hey, that's my papa. Every once in a while, I do something, and I go, man, that's my dad coming out. Every once in a while, I do something, and I say, that's my mom. And it's not just them coming out; it's their fingerprints on my back as they pushed me forward, but also as they inspired me by pushing their own limits and limitations and the barriers and boulders that got in their way. As they toppled them over, they become inspirational, and that inspiration still captures my heart today and moves me forward. It is their legacy in me. As Scott Peck said, one extends one's limits only by exceeding them. One extends one's limits only by exceeding them. And when you watch another person exceed their limitations and push past their limitations, it's inspiring, and it'll inspire not only in their natural life when they're here, it'll inspire you after. And so if you want to leave a legacy, push people forward, yes. Put your hands on their back, put your fingerprints on their back, and push them forward. Push them out and up into new opportunities. But also, remember that every time you face and you push away and you push down your limits and limitations and barriers and boulders, that inspiration can and will outlast you. Absolutely. They've just broke those limitations, those barriers, and it's an inspiration. And I think in my own life, although I don't talk about it a lot, but I've overcome some of my own barriers and limitations, which I believe have been inspirational to others and inspirational to my family. I, as a child, was I would use the word, I was marginalized as a child. How I grew up and growing up in government-assisted housing and having that stigma attached to me. I had speech problems when I was a child. I had a fear of public speaking and large social events, although I know that maybe doesn't make sense based on what I do today. But there are barriers and boulders that I've crashed through and pushed down in my life, and I believe they become an inspiration to others and will become an inspiration to my children and my grandchildren when I'm not here. But lastly, there's another part of this pushing. Lastly, these pushers are pushers who plant seeds, who take seeds and push them down into the soil of the lives of others. And I often think about this analogy when I think about communication. There's a powerful thing when you think of an idea, or you think of the seed of hope, or the seed of a good idea, or good intention, or good values, and you press it down into the soil so that it can grow and it can be watered. Pushers that leave a legacy really are focusing sometimes on what seeds are they planting in others, and are they pushing them down, not just letting them sit on the top of their life or their heads so that the winds and the crap of life just blows it off, but they're pushing that seed down into their life, and they're pushing it down through communication and through time spent with, and they're massaging and pushing down these ideas and ideals that they want to transform others and to live beyond them. Pushers, There's all this area of pushers, and that's what I'm just talking to you about. If you want to leave a legacy, if you want to leave a lasting legacy and be an unender, you need to consider what it means to be a pusher. Pushers. And I think about the things that people pushed into my life, the values, the value of compassion, the value of generosity, other values that my mom pushed into my life with some force at times. I resisted it. As a child, I remember my mom taking me to volunteer at an old age home, and I would go every week with her, and I would volunteer, and I hated doing it. But during that time, I've come to realize she was pushing a value set into my life, pushing it down deep so it would take root, so that even when she wasn't here, and even when she isn't here now, because she's dead, that value still grows and bears fruit in my life and the lives of others, because she pushed it down through persistent action and actually pushing me to do things I didn't want to do sometimes. So you want to be an unender? You want to be a legacy leaver? Be a pusher. A pusher of people and leave a mark, leave an imprint. A pusher of your own limits and limitations and of your own barriers and boulders so you can inspire others both in this life and beyond. And be a pusher who plants seeds that bear fruit in the lives of others long after you're not here anymore. Push down things into people's lives so that they will grow. Now, at the end of each of these small little episodes where I'm going to highlight an action, an attitude, a behavior of a legacy leaver, I'm also going to give you what I'm going to call you an unending challenge after every episode. So each week of this series, I'm going to give you a challenge. Last time I gave you a challenge to go out and maybe go to the graveside of somebody who was a mentor or an influencer or an unender in your life and reflect on their lives. That was my challenge last time. Here's my challenge this time. Go out and find somebody to push this week. Go out and find somebody to push. Go out and look in your personal and professional life and ask yourself, who do I need to get my hands on their back? Again, not slap them in the face, not strangle them, but put your hands in the center of their back metaphorically and put your fingerprints and push them forward into their destiny. That they need some encouragement, push them forward into something new or something catalytic in their lives. I want you to think about somebody and go out and push them gently forward into their future that they may not be able to see, into something new that will start and create some new life in them. Go out and be a pusher of people. Put your hand in their back and push them forward. My second challenge to you is, what barrier or boulder or limit or limitation in your life this week do you need to confront, and do you need to push through it and push it over for not only your benefit, but for the inspiration of others around you, and maybe an inspiration that will last beyond your mortal days? And lastly, that pusher of seed, I want you to think about a value that you want to see more in people around you. Maybe it's your kids, maybe it's in your friends, maybe it's in your work. I don't care what it is, but I want you to think about a value that you want to see more of, like a seed. You want to see it planted and grow. And I want you to purposely go out and ask, what value seed, what seed, what good seed do I need to press into the culture or the world around me or into a person so it will bear fruit? And again, this series is all about inspiring people in the moment, of course, but it is about the legacy that we will leave when we aren't here. It is about the impact that we have, the opportunity to be unenders, to be legacy leavers, to be uncommodified unenders. Thanks for listening, and never forget, you're not getting out of here alive, but your reputation and your impact will outlive you.